It didn't work out so well for us. Free Radius doesn't have support for EAP Fast yet, but as soon as it does, the attack that we're going to come out with is basically, hey, I'm your EAP Fast server, and I'm going to have EAP Fast Phase 0 pack provisioning enabled. I'm going to give you a pack, and you're going to give me your MS Chat v2 credentials. And now it's the whole sleep attack all over again. OK, I'm going to sit down.
Cool. So, well, right off the bat, how many people run PEAP and EAP TLS? Nobody? I see one guy hiding the thing. All right, so I'm a security consultant for Foundstone. I mess with wireless networks a lot. Almost all of our clients use PEAP and EAP TLS. It's a really, really popular thing. They're both very, very popular. Overall, the important thing to remember about PEAP and EAP TLS is that what they do is they establish mutual authentication between the client and the server. After it does that, it sets up a tunnel, a TLS tunnel between the client and authentication server. So it does this because what it wants to do after that is transmit less secure inner authentication credentials. So the idea is, okay, we don't want to send EAP MD, or we don't want to send MD5 hashes over the wireless network, or we don't want to send MS Chat hashes over the challenge response over the wireless network, or PAP. We want to have this in this tunneled secured network, right, or this tunneled secure connection. So that's basically the main gist of it, and I guess the important part. To look more specifically at it, we have, so initially, before any of this stuff happens, we have our standard 802.11 association request, response, and authentication and association. Then what happens is the Radius server sends an EAP identity request. The client then sends an EAP identity response. Now, the EAP identity response is set in clear text, so sometimes, depending on the supplicant, you may, depending on the supplicant and actually the Radius server, you may and may not see this in a packet capture. But it does contain the username, or it'll contain what's called an anonymous name. The Radius server, I know ACS and SBR, Steel Belted Radius, they both support anonymous names, which basically means ignore this. But if you're an attacker, if you're sniffing on the network or anything, now you have one, and it doesn't support this. Now you can see the username. You have one part of the username and password, right, which is always a good thing. Anyway, if it is anonymous, we have that TLS tunnel establishment. This is where the client authenticates the Radius server and sets up the tunnel. And then inside this phase 2 here, this is what happens inside of that. So now we get another identity request, another identity response. This time, that username has to be really what it is, right? This is what's going to be used for your authentication credentials. And this is just a standard MS Chat v2 handshake, right? So then the authentication server sends over its random challenge. The client responds back with its response, and then another challenge, and then the server will say, I successfully identified your challenge. Your response is good. I'm going to create a response using my challenge and send it back to you. Inside the client's response, we have an NT hash and basically the challenge as a solved. Okay. The thing here is, and what's kind of important, is that in this phase 2, after the client sends, we're going to demonstrate an attack tool here, and the client will be kind of in this state of limbo after our attack is successfully launched. This is because we just took this where the client sent its response. So we just took that data that the client said and said, all right, whatever, here's anything to satisfy that last request. So the client in the MS Chat v2 scenario, the client will just kind of sit there a little in that I actually won't actually connect, and I'll keep trying to reconnect. Also, an important thing to remember is the difference between PEAP and EAP TLS. It's mainly PEAP only supports MS Chat v2, and EAP TLS will support pretty much anything. So as its inner authentication protocol. Okay. As far as the server validation goes, the supplicant really, this is where everybody messes up. Okay, the supplicant or the client really needs to do 3 things. It needs to identify the signing authority for the certificate. It needs to validate the trusted CA, and it also needs to compare the certificate name to that in its local store, which is usually the Radius server name. All of this stuff needs to be configured. If you guys are here and you have a PEAP or EAP TLS set up at home or at work, immediately check that all this stuff is configured. Because if it's not, we'll show everybody in this room how to own you.
That's why nobody runs PEAP or TTLS here, Brad.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
So obviously what happens here? We all know this slide, right? We try to go to bankofamerica.com over HTTPS. You know, there's domain name mismatch, no www. What does the user do? Yeah, whatever, clicks, okay, right? We all know about this. We don't want to trust our security of our network or the security of the client in the client's hands. Clients are dumb, right? So we don't want to do that. So the main weaknesses, again, the main weakness is a configuration-related issue here. We have a lot of people out there, a lot of people who are configuring it who don't validate server certificates. So that's the issue that we're attacking here. It's a configuration-related issue. They may be validating a server certificate, or they're just not properly configuring it on the supplicant. And we'll go through the different supplicant configurations. So right off the bat, what's wrong here? Oh, there you go. Validate server certificate. I can tell you, I see this in so many different clients. The response is, well, you know, we were trying to get PEAP working, and it really wasn't. And then I figured out if I uncheck this box, everything worked great. Woohoo! So, like, yeah, oh, no, that doesn't work. That doesn't work. You're an idiot. No, I don't. Anyway, so at any rate, this is the obvious issue. Here, super easy pwnage, man. We can own you real quick, and everything's happy. The next setup is a little different, so this is the default configuration for Windows 0 config. We got that checkbox checked. Yes, we're in, right? Wrong. Now what we basically do is Windows 0 config will prompt the user, right? It'll prompt the user, do you want to trust this certificate? Except as long as the certificate's in the user's trusted certificate store, right? It has to be in there already. But the messed up part here is that it only shows you the certificate name, the certificate authority. It doesn't actually show you the name. So that's kind of an issue there, because anybody who, as from the client standpoint, he sees VeriSign certificate and says, oh, this is a VeriSign certificate. VeriSign's cool. Okay, I'm connected. Yeah, right. Wrong. Problem there, right? Because now that they pressed OK, the security of the network is in the hands of the client. So now we just owned them already. The next configuration, one step further. This is kind of stupid. I mean, it's really stupid. They say, OK, I want to validate certificate, and my certificate's a VeriSign certificate. So boom, boom, I'm good. Wrong. The problem here is Windows 0 config. If it doesn't have the connect to these servers checkbox checked, it'll just take any server from that trusted certificate authority. So now, what happens here? A client says, "Okay, let me sniff, sniff your client." An attacker says, "Let me sniff a client's TLS connection." Finds out that you're getting a network solutions or a VeriSign certificate, and says, "Cool, let me grab one of those." Any certificate name will do, as long as it's a valid VeriSign certificate or a valid whatever trusted authority certificate you'll use, and the client sees no interaction. So again, boom, got you, owned, right? So that's why it's really important to get this configuration right. So Func software is kind of all right, kind of. The first time it'll still prompt the user, but it takes a little more stricter controls. It doesn't make it as easy to mess up, but it still will prompt the user and leave that in that hands. OSX Supplicant, this doesn't really say, I wish there's more red there, maybe some fire or death signs. I saw some good things. But no, the user has to take it on his own initiative to view the certificate, and then it sees some red there, and still the client's probably like, I don't know what's going on. Yes, okay, cool. So, but there is actually, for OSX, there are good things, like it does show some green in certain areas, so that's kind of cool. But for the most part, again, you guys will really want to focus on your client security, especially with this attack that we're going to demonstrate today. This is what we're attacking. I saw two other attacks that focused on the need for identifying, how do we prevent against AP impersonation attacks? And JBL's attack was, they're attacking all of our clients, right? So this is another thing we're battering over everybody's head. We really want to address, and we're going to show you one of the real issues that we can perform with it.
I love the ambiguous they.
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 Yeah.
They are attacking all of our clients.
They,
yeah. Nobody in particular. Yeah.
So I think it's all you.
Okay, so just a. Oh, it's my turn now, right?
If you want.
All right, good. All right, okay, yeah. All right, so attacking PEAP deployments, what we're going to talk about here. The problem is that security is left in the hands of the user. Even if you think you've properly configured your supplicant, often the only thing that determines whether or not that client can get owned or not is the client saying yes or no. Right? This is the classic IE problem, right? With using EtherCap and SSL man-in-the-middle attacks, and I think you guys all know that kind of stuff. But the problem here is that I think we're using TLS improperly. Absolutely. So PEAP and TTLS both use TLS for that authentication mechanism. We use TLS for